As Spike is inducted into Jimmy Crystal's gang on the mainland, Dr. Ian Kelson makes a discovery that could alter the world. Today we're going to be discussing 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, the sequel to 28 Years Later, which was directed by Nia DaCosta of The Marvels and Candyman, written by Alex Garland and Ray Fiennes, Jack O'Connell, and Alfie Williams. So on this channel, we discuss a little bit about the promotional aspect of the film and then go into the movie experience. You know, what time of day did I see it? How was the audience? How big was the audience? Discussion around the audio and music, visuals, effects, and then we go into an overview of my opinion of the movie and what I thought was good and maybe what wasn't great in the film and if it's worth your time watching in the theater. So the promotional aspect of the film, the poster itself is pretty standard fare. I do and think it's a little bit better than a lot of the posters that are out for a lot of the movies these days. It did kind of give that essence of what is going on in this film. You know, there's the Bone Temple, there's the Star Knight in the background, and then you have Ray Fiennes' character standing there, and you're wondering to yourself, what's going on here? What is he doing? What happened to him after the events of the first movie? And then the trailer, you know, pretty standard fare. You knew it was coming. There was already discussions around when 28 Years Later released that 28 Years Later Bone Temple was coming out. They were being made at the same time, even though with different directors. So I was already looking forward to the film. The trailer didn't really have to sell me on it. But the trailer's pretty standard fare. Did kind of dive more into the Jimmy aspect with the gang that's in the movie. And then a little bit about Ian, so you have an understanding of what the movie's really going to focus on. Whereas the first one was a little bit ambiguous on what the movie was going to be about, especially 28 years later. And that movie had some aspects of understanding that the events that happened on the island pretty much just stayed on the island and the rest of the world just moved on. And this movie delves into more how the people who are still on the island are surviving, I guess, living alongside the rage zombies. So overall, the trailer was effective, but still gives a lot away in regards to what the overall movie is. I watched this movie at a 7 p.m. on a Friday evening. Crowd was pretty big for the size of the auditorium. It was at one of the larger auditoriums at the theater I go to. I'd say it was maybe 3/4 full. Pretty good turnout for a Friday night. Audio and music wise, I thought this movie had the score. I don't really remember too much of it. It fit the tone of the film, but I think where it kind of stood out was the licensed music they used and how they used it. I really appreciated how it was integrated into part of the story, and the sound design was very effective in regards to, you know, those rage zombies being in the woods and what you hear off in the distance. And then there was also an aspect of the movie around one of the particular rage zombies and how they interpret sound and what they're seeing that I thought was very, both audio-wise and visual-wise, very interesting. And then the visuals and the effects kind of reminded me of the first film a bit in a certain way. And especially in a certain few scenes, it was very chaotic and shot very handheld-like. Kind of had that graininess to what the original film was like, so I appreciated that. And I feel this one fits a little bit better within those original movies, even though it's been a while since I've seen 28 Weeks Later. I did see 28 Years Later before I watched the last 28 Years Later, and definitely different vibes. I know they're filmed at drastically different times of different technologies, but this one I think kind of felt a little bit more close to the original. And there are some pretty great practical effects from it look like in the movie as well, and some interesting things that goes with the visual pairing of how these rage zombies see things. And overall, I thought the movie was great. The movie follows kind of two storylines, one following the Jimmy Crystal's gang and what they're doing across the lands, and then there's also Ian. And then there's also Ray Fiennes' character, Dr. Ian, who is still in his bone temple, still salvaging the dead bodies that he comes across and building up. He decides to see what's going on with one of the alphas, and as he's giving this alpha some tranquilizers, he starts to see a change, and he starts experimenting with that and trying to interact with that. And I thought that was an interesting take on the movie and how that goes. And then you follow where these two worlds collide, both, you know, Dr. Ian and then the Jimmy gang. And how does that come together? It comes together in an interesting way and really asks you, like, who is the real monster in this world? Is it the rage zombies or is it humanity? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie that really questions you, like who really is the monster here. So great performances all around. Jack O'Connell was great as Jimmy. You know, Alfie, I think, kind of takes a back burner in this film in regards to how much he's in it. He's in it quite a bit, but I think story is really about Ray Fiennes' character, Dr. Ian, and Jack O'Connell's character as Jimmy Crystal and the gang he is savaging across the land. Highly recommend watching this in the theater. It makes for entertaining time at the movies. Definitely worth a while. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars. So make sure to check back next week for some more films that I'll be reviewing. And I'll see you next time.